if you're Xi Jinping, when he says our single highest priority is to improve the lives of the ordinary people, when he says that, this is a deeply felt, personal, emotional comment. This is not a conceptual comment. And this is not, any of the U.S. leaders in my lifetime, none of them live that life.
本期访谈的主人公是约翰·桑顿，他曾任高盛集团总裁，是华尔街最具影响力的金融决策者之一。2003年起，他受聘于清华大学，长期主导全球领导力项目的教学与实践。作为中共二轨外交的核心人物，桑顿与中国最高领导层保持着长达20年的深度沟通。他曾多次在北京或中方最高领导人接见，是极少数能直达双边决策层、影响中美战略判断的美国人。今天的访谈，我们将听取这位深谙中南海逻辑的老朋友对当前中美双边关系该如何进行的最新研判。
Start back in 2012 when Xi Jinping came to power, and this is a premier that you have watched and studied and know. Help us understand who he is and as a leader what he wants.
Okay, so this can make me very unpopular. So Xi Jinping, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier. I want you to keep your minds open for a second and try to imagine this. And some of you may know this. So Xi Jinping's father was the youngest vice premier in China in 1959 when he was 46 years old. And Xi Jinping was 6 years old. 1962, Xi Jinping's father was purged by Mao. So Xi Jinping, between age 6 and 9, his father's right in the center of the power structure, and suddenly he's out altogether. 4 years later, 1966, is the Cultural Revolution. Xi Jinping is 13 years old. The father and the mother sent to prison. 2 years later, Xi Jinping at age 15 is sent to the countryside, sent down youth. So he lives in the countryside from age 15 to age 22. So for those 7 years, those 7 extremely formative years, he's living the dirt poor existence of the Chinese farmer, with both parents imprisoned. Older half-sister commits suicide. So there's Xi Jinping in his teenage college years, by the way, of course, not being educated. There's no schooling, there's no university. And, where's his future? During that period, he applies 15 times to be in the Communist Party. He gets turned down 15 times. Eventually, of course, Mao dies. Deng Xiaoping comes back into power. Deng Xiaoping brings the father out from prison. Xi Jinping is now free to go to university and start his life. The father, meanwhile, Deng Xiaoping makes him the governor of Guangdong province. Guangdong province is the province right across from Hong Kong. And Xi Jinping's father is the individual who goes to Deng Xiaoping and says, we should make this a special economic zone, an experiment with market economics. So his father is the individual who goes to Deng Xiaoping and says, that's the kind of the first spark of the reform and opening period. Later on, when Deng Xiaoping essentially removes Hu Yaobang from power, and then Tiananmen Square happens, Xi Jinping's father is the only one of that generation who tells Deng he's wrong. And he gets banished again. So I want you to think about the sort of the strength of character of somebody who goes through what I just described and comes out the other side of it pretty much intact, stays in the system, rises up to the position he's in. I have 4 children, the youngest of whom is a sophomore in university. This past semester, he had a course on the Cultural Revolution. And the final paper was, write a paper on what you think the impact was on the sent-down youth of the Cultural Revolution. And so my son interviewed 6 or 7 sent-down youth, half of whom are living in this country and half of whom are living in China. And of course, in his paper, he basically says, look, you can't generalize for 17 million people on the basis of talking to 7, but these are what these 7 people told me. And then he says, it's interesting to speculate. what was the impact on the sent-down youth, of those sent-down youth who stayed in the system and got to the top of the system, like Xi Jinping. And my son says the following things in his paper, which I agree with. He says, the first thing is, if you're Xi Jinping, when he says our single highest priority is to improve the lives of the ordinary people, when he says that, this is a deeply felt, personal, emotional comment. This is not a conceptual comment. And this is not, any of the U.S. leaders in my lifetime, none of them live that life. And so when they talk about improving the lives of ordinary Americans, this is an intellectual concept. They believe it to more or less extent. For Xi Jinping, this is a highly personal comment. That's number one. The second one is, if you live through the insanity of the Cultural Revolution and you're a leader of China, priority 1 through 5 or 1 through 10 is social and political stability. So those two things, to me, are the most defining characteristics of this person. The third one being Xi Jinping's desire for China as a country to reestablish itself, remembering that